Hello everyone, and here I am, and this is a surprise, isn't it? I'm here and I'm not watching someone on the screen. I've actually got Jeremy with me in the studio.
Hello everybody.
And Griselda. Griselda's hiding over in the corner. She's going to be our assistant though, so you are going to get to see Griselda. So today you've been in Eastbourne, haven't you, Jeremy?
Yes, I rushed to Eastbourne to pick up a Doctor Who special magazine on production design.
Wow.
And I get, among other designers, I get
Look at that.
2 double-page spreads.
So up a little bit, hold it up a little bit, there we go. So how exciting. And there's another one.
Yes.
So that gives you a little feel about what we might be talking about today, because Jeremy's had a long career in television. We've also got some of his beautiful work hanging on the walls, and Griselda is going to bring some of it to the screen as we talk about it. Jeremy's here because the Wi-Fi at Jeremy's studio is not very good, and we didn't want to miss out on having Jeremy on one of the lives, so I said, bring your work and we'll do social distancing. So we've done the measuring, it's okay, and we're not touching. And I'm going to move out of screen in a minute so that there's plenty of room between us, and Jeremy is going to sit in front of the screen. So, but the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you Jeremy's page in the magazine. Now you're going to have to wait a second, because just before we came on air, the whole system crashed, which was super scary, as you can imagine. And so I had all the tabs ready, and they all closed. So I'm just gonna get up the magazine, and then I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna share it with you. So here we go. So let's share this magazine page for everyone. Hopefully you can all hear us fine, and if you need us to talk up a little bit, let me know. I can bring the mic in a bit closer. So yeah, just let us know in the sidebar if you find that, there you are, so there you are, you've got the magazine. But if you find that we're not talking loudly enough, then just, you know what to do, you just tell us to speak up a little bit, or I'll turn the mic up. So Jeremy's page, he was very organised, told me it's page 27. There we go. So that's again a little bit of a hint. That picture's in your studio, isn't it, Jeremy?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so that's you in your studio. And this is some of your series.
That's one of the Japanese series, the apprentice geishas in Kyoto, and they just wander about the streets, beautifully dressed and made up, and enjoy being photographed. And some people hire them to go on a rickshaw drive with them.
Oh wow. So if you want to get in contact with Jeremy, his email is there, and his website, which we're also going to have a look at in a second, is there. Now, but Jeremy, actually, you've already been contacted by someone, haven't you?
Yes.
As a result of the magazine.
Yes.
So tell us quickly about that.
Well, last week I was contacted by 2 people who wanted some of my Hastings boat pictures, and one came to the studio and bought one, and I had prints of it, which she'd originally asked for, but when she came and saw the original, she wanted that, so that was great.
Wow, so
And then
Griselda is going to come in the background here and show.
There is one of the boats.
Okay, so you have to do that. There we go.
Yes.
Look at that.
I started drawing all the boats with colour pencils,
Absolutely stunning.
because all the wooden ones are disappearing and being cut up or parked on local roundabouts.
So they saw you in the ART360 magazine,
Yes.
contacted you,
Yes.
and then you've done one commission and sold one.
No, the commission, I'm going to the beach on Friday
Oh,
to meet the fisherman's wife, who wants to surprise him for his birthday, which is on November the 3rd.
Oh, you're going to be under a tight time scale then.
Well, she wanted a painting first, but she didn't want to spend as much as on a painting, so I suggested a coloured drawing, which I know I can do in time, and she's gone for that.
Brilliant. So we could have a look at the other colour drawing actually, which is another. This one's
Yes,
lovely,
that's
isn't it?
actually more like a watercolour, but in acrylic paint, but it's
Yes,
behind
that's
glass.
great. So we just have to tip. Oh,
Yes.
yeah. So just there. Actually, yeah. There we go.
And
Look at that. I think we need Griselda here all the time to be holding up the pictures. This is fabulous.
And that one was, I did that subject because it's just across the channel, and it went in an exchange between Helsham and Gournay and Bray,
Oh wow.
and so it was shown there, and there was another one I did as well then.
Oh, I'm really pleased that people are receiving, contact through the magazine. That's so encouraging, because Chris put her heart and soul into making that magazine.
Yes.
It's so beautiful, and she spent like nearly a month making it like completely interactive, and it would have been so sad if, but we know, because we can see the statistics, that we're getting so many views, and people spend at least 10 minutes reading it, so they're looking at each individual page, which is so encouraging. So well done. I'm really proud. So we'll have a quick look at your website, and you can show us.
On the website, on the exhibitions page, there's a film.
There's a film.
Yes.
Okay, there we are. So let's go to the exhibitions page. Hang on a sec. Yep, there we are. It's all up there.
It's
So
about 6 minutes long, so I don't suppose you want to watch it
no,
now.
we're probably not going to watch it now.
No,
but
it is.
that's also, we've been playing that on social media today
you
as
have?
well. Yeah, so that's been
Wow.
on social media, and Chris has added it to the ART360 magazine as well. So
Oh,
tonight,
right.
when the magazine updates, yes, tonight when the magazine updates, it will appear on your page
Oh,
as
that's
well.
great.
So yes, you're very lucky. She has to take the whole thing down
Oh, no.
and then put it all back up again. So yeah, but she was happy to do it. So so there's some of the pictures there that we're going to look at today. So we go through the various collections. So we're going to be talking all about that. So yeah, that's Jeremy's page. So I'm going to move slightly back out of shot, because no one wants to look at me. They want to hear from you. So if you want to move in front of the camera, Jeremy, this is now your open studio event. So as we said, the website is arranged in themes. So if anyone wants to go on there and have a look, then click on the various themes, and you'll see you've got, Mongolia, Japan, India.
Yes,
And then you've got the-
marine paintings and marine drawings.
And you've got the artisans as well, haven't you?
Yes, the craftspeople.
The craftspeople.
And also portraits.
Yeah, so we can have a look, and we've got some of those here as well. So we can, in fact, you've got the one of Griselda.
Yes.
I think Griselda can bring the portrait of Griselda, and but she tried to drop earlier.
It's transformation. It's me turning into a transformed bear, and it is an actual transformation mask that was made for us by a Northwest Coast Canadian artist, very special artists, like national treasures. So
I love the dark background, but it's got these amazing, I don't know whether you can see that on the screen, I think you can. These
Yes, it's
amazing
all
little
marked.
marks.
Yes.
Is that significant?
No, I just didn't want it to be totally one dark colour, so I just went that with the grey on the brush on top of the black.
It really adds something to it. It really gives it like that depth,
Yes,
doesn't it?
but I hope it makes it come more alive. Yes.
It gives it quite a
And
filmatic.
when I paint people's faces, I mean, I may have taken ages to paint the mask, but when I start off with someone's face, I really paint it quite quickly, and then I go back to it after I've done the rest, and
The hands are amazing.
and I have a copy of Gray's Anatomy, and I have studied anatomy in some form, so that's helpful.
Yeah. How was it painting your wife?
It was fine. She didn't. I decided to do it without really telling her.
I had no idea.
So, you know that these lives have been really quite telling the story of the artist, so it'd be
Yes.
really interesting for us if you could go back to the beginning and tell us where it all started, Jeremy.
Well,
Jeremy.
when I was very small, I used to draw voraciously on scrap paper stapled together, which my mother gave me, and I used to make my own models, not from kits of aeroplanes, and then I went to a prep school for Eastbourne College, and I did art there, and then when I was at Eastbourne College I did art there, and I left Eastbourne College when I was 16 and went to Brighton Art College and did what I suppose would now be called a foundation course, and then I did a graphics course, but work experience at an agency rather put me off that, so I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do. And I saw an ad from the Brighton and District Master Printers who wanted an exhibition stand, designing for an exhibition in Brighton. So I told them I would do it, and I designed it, and then I said, well, I've designed it, but now I'll make it. So I made the exhibition stand at home, because I lived on a fruit farm, and my father had lots of different workshops with really good tools, lathes and everything. And I made it, and it was taken to Brighton. And then, on the strength of that, I got a job in London with Beck and Politzer Contracts, who built and sent exhibition stands all over the world. So I was in their studio wearing a white coat and learning perspective drawing, because at work then you could go to work and get a job and you'd be trained there. So I learned how to do perspective drawing, which I hadn't done before, and working drawings, because I used to do perspective coloured visuals of the exhibition stand, which would be approved by the client, and then I'd have to do the working drawings for the workshop. So it was a very quick learning time, and I was there for just under 2 years. And then I was given an ad from the BBC who wanted trainee design assistants. And I thought, well, it was much the same money as I was getting. But I thought, well, this is a chance which, looking forward to the future, might mean a lot more. So I applied and got the job, and it was the year after BBC Two had started, so television was still in black and white. And within another 18 months I was a fully fledged designer, because while working for other designers and assistants and doing their working drawings, I also had a period where I was working in the staff training department of the BBC with trainee directors, and they produced little half-hour productions, and we could, from the stock scenery we had at the BBC, put it together in different ways to suit whatever play it was. And I attended some of the lectures with the directors, trainee directors, and I remember once sitting at a desk with Esther Ransom.
Wow.
And then when I'd been made a designer, I did every kind of television production you could possibly think of, from children's programs to dramas. And there was a design manager who allocated all the designers, and he had a great big board in his office with a line for every designer to show what they were all doing. And of course all the designers tried very hard to influence him. And I had a marvellous mentor in the head of design called Cliff Hatts, who took me on in the first place and was always friendly. And the designers went to a sort of film club in his house once a month, and we saw all sorts of films like Battleship Potemkin and lots of other classic films. And in the designing, the whole atmosphere was so exciting, because all these creative people together were vying with each other all the time to innovate and produce exciting designs. So at lunchtime, all the designers would walk around the 7 or 8 studios to see what everybody else was doing, and they would comment, and you might or might not get to hear what they were thinking. And I was lucky enough to work on a series called the On Eden Line, which was about a Liverpool shipbuilding family. And we filmed in Dartmouth, and all the crew dressed in costume, because when you were on the ship, which was called the Charlotte Rhodes, we were likely to be in shot. And in fact, it was so far away from London that people who were non-equity could be used as extras in the distance. And that was all very exciting. I mean, I think in one episode I appear in different guises in 5 different parts of the world.
We should have appeared in costume today, Griselda. We're letting the side down, aren't we?
That's coming.
In the Radio Times as a figure.
Yes, yes. And we did mad things, like I built a village a seaside village in Sweden in the height of August, and I did a glass shot, painted a glass shot, so the ship would appear to be in ice, but it kept sinking through the ice because the tide was going down, so I had to continually adjust it. And we had net sheds like the ones at Hastings, but in effect, and lots of artificial snow for that. And another time I had to recreate a market in China in a very short time because the directors were pressing to get onto that scene. And there was lots of shots in the River Dart which appeared in one episode as the Amazon, and the ship had to crash into a floating log, and canoes and Amazonians. And
Where do you find an Amazonian in Dartmouth?
Makeup.
Really good makeup.
Makeup and wigs.
That's the same time as you were doing Doctor Who?
No, that was in between. I did several episodes of the On Eden Line, and then I would be off doing other programmes, and then I think it was in 1972 that I made 6 episodes of Doctor Who called Doctor Who and the Mutants, and I was very keen to do it because I wanted to get away from rather heavy science fiction sets that had been done previously. So I did a lot of research because I had a subscription to the National Geographic, the American Geographic magazine, and they had simulations of the to-be NASA space station, and it had particular thin walls, which I thought was good, and so I designed this PVC panel which to make up lots of the walls in the set, and they were thin, and that pattern was used in lots of other things like Blake 7 and I think the mould for that panel is still available from Pinewood Studios.
You're a trailblazer.
Yes, it was so interesting doing it.
Yeah.
And I've been interviewed before about Doctor Who when they made a CD of my particular episodes, and I met up with the director again and lots of other members of the cast. And
who were the cast at that time?
John Pertwee's Doctor Who, and I can't remember the name of his
John
companion.
Pertwee live near here? Does he live around?
Did he?
I think so.
And we filmed in Chislehurst Caves as well, and the designs I put on the wall I believe are still there. And then we had this planet, it was supposed to be a planet, which was undergoing great change, and the human conquerors of it in their space station didn't really understand what was happening, and it was really rather a racist series of episodes. And anyway, the people on the planet were changing because the planet was going to go into the orbit of 2 suns, so therefore the climate would change drastically, and they had to metamorphise into these new beings which were more like a spirit than a human. And so that was created with special effects which were, when you look at it now, were rather primitive compared with what can be done with CG now.
Was this all in black and white? Or
No, it was
It's
in
in
colour,
colour.
yes.
yeah.
And going back, I did the first play, which was in colour, as an outside broadcast, which was set in the First World War. That was called A Question of Honour.
And when was that?
That was 1969, I think.
So that was the first outside broadcasting colour.
Yes, and I also did the first colour broadcast set from Wimbledon as well.
Really?
Yes.
Oh wow. Wow, you've got so much experience. No wonder, the work that you do now is so cinematic, isn't it? It is, it makes complete sense
Yes.
now why you put so much narrative into there's so much storytelling,
Yes.
isn't there? And you can see where that's coming from. So go on then, name drop. Who have you worked with? Give us some names, writers
While
and
I was
actors.
at the BBC, I did a black and white film which was set in Yorkshire called A Day Out, and Stephen Frears was the director, and Alan Bennett wrote it.
Wow.
And
Mixing with the greats.
yes, at the beginning. I mean, we were all...
You're mixing with the greats now, Jeremy, because you're with Griselda and I. But
Yeah. Yeah.
And you also had some actors, didn't you, that you were
Yes.
working with?
Yes. And so I did a series of plays which came under the title of The 11th Hour, and the writers and the designers and all the other people in the team and the directors used to sit down on a Monday morning and decide what was going to be written, designed, cast and rehearsed for a live performance on Saturday evening.
Oh, scary.
Yes, that really was
Probably
scary.
scary.
And so we had writers like Tom Stoppard and Faye Weldon and David Edgar.
Wow. And you were observing that all going on.
Oh yes,
You
I
had to do
mean
your
always when you're design, you're heavily involved with the whole team. There's not really a separation, and it's all a team effort anyway. So you're involved. So you get to know famous directors and famous actors, and you're bound to have something you need to talk to them about. And
So who appeared? Which actors were appearing in the 11th Hour?
I don't remember all the cast members, but I do remember other things. And Mike Newell was one of the directors, who I think everybody will know now, and another director was Piers Haggard, who some people might remember.
So from there, you worked in the BBC for how many years did you stay?
I think it was 13 years.
13 years, wow.
And then I saw an ad for a senior designer at Yorkshire Television, and because I'd done the Day Out filming, and also I'd done some episodes of Last of the Summer Wine, I really liked Yorkshire, so I thought I'd give it a go, and I got the job. And then, towards the end of my first year, ITV had an 11-week strike.
Oh gosh.
So I had to work in a pub for 11 weeks.
It's a bit like our equivalent, the time equivalent of lockdown.
Yeah.
Got to do something different for
Yeah.
that period of time.
And then early on in the next year, I was made head of design, but allocating designers and looking for freelance designers for productions. And I was a bit like a mini design manager at the BBC as well, because I had a chart on the wall showing what all the designers were doing. But I also continued to design lots of single plays, because I never wanted to give up designing. So I did a play for Channel 4 called Keane, about the famous 18th century actor called Edmund Keane. And Ben Kingsley, who'd just been doing Gandhi, was the sole actor in that. And I did a play called A Village Wooing, which is based on a Bernard Shaw story, with Judi Dench.
So do we have some? We have
And
some
Richard
stills,
Bryars.
don't
Yes,
we?
I
We have
do.
some stills that we
Yeah.
can look at from some of these. our oval assistant again. Next time, please dress in period costume. So, that's the village. That's the village wooing.
Before everything went digital, designers had a portfolio of sheets of photographs which we used to take in rehearsal time, because obviously you couldn't do it when it was actually being recorded. So that's Judi Dench.
Oh wow!
And
a very young Judi Dench.
Yes, and there's Richard Bryars. And this is a set where they met on a liner. So that was in the studio. And the sea was made out of crinkled up silver foil, which the prop boys rattled slightly. So it always looked as though it was moving as a background. So, I mean, and this was a village store in a village where they got together, and it had every last detail, including, because the director wanted it, although it wasn't strictly necessary, one of those pneumatic things where you put something in and it shoots across to the till.
Oh yes, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
So you've got another one there.
Yes. That's just more inside the
more inside the shop. With Judi Dench.
Yes.
What was she like to work with? I think she's an amazing
Yes,
actress.
well, totally professional.
Yes.
And then another thing I did was what Yorkshire Television did for HBO was a version of Frankenstein, and Robert Powell was Frankenstein, and David Warner was the monster, and Sir John Gielgud was the blind hermit who helped the monster when nobody else would.
The blind hermit. He's gone on to great things. I don't know whether you've heard.
When I was a design assistant, I had worked with him before, and there was a play called The Mayfly and the Frog, and it was about an older man falling in love with a younger woman. And I remember there had to be an ornamental pond, and it had a fountain and a little island in the middle. So in the studio that's done, and I had to get in to dress the surroundings of the fountain. And I did a play about the life of Gracie Fields, which was set in all sorts of theatre settings, and that was called Prideville Alley. And there's the one about Keane with Ben Kingsley, and that's the other two pictures, the 11th Hour productions. And in one of the 11th Hour productions, which was all done in 1 week and shown live, I had to recreate the bank vaults of the Bank of England with all the gold bars.
These are amazing. Thank goodness you jumped up and took the photographs and kept all of these memories.
Yes. Well, it was very important for people's careers.
Yes. Hung in the balance.
Yeah. And then I did, for Christopher Fry's 80th birthday, Yorkshire Television did a production of his famous play, The Lady's Not for Burning. And there was a young Kenneth Branagh in that, and Sherry Lungi, and Bernard Hepton.
Goodness. Must be amazing seeing where these actors have gone.
Yes.
Since the early days when you worked with them.
Yeah.
Amazing. So how long did you stay at Yorkshire Television?
10 years.
10 years at Yorkshire Television.
Yes, and then I went freelance.
When did you meet Griselda? We need to know that.
Well, that's way back.
That's way back. Was that at the BBC?
No, before.
Before the BBC?
Yeah.
Oh, so Griselda's been on this journey too.
I was...
Parents' party.
Oh, at a parents' party. Oh, we'll talk about that later. Carry on. So you were at Yorkshire Television for 10 years, and then where did you go?
I went freelance.
Okay.
Because I was asked if I'd want to change to being one of Yorkshire Television managers, but I decided that design was really what I cared about, and not being in a management suit and attending and thousands of meetings about productions and so on.
Jeremy does love his lively shirts. I can't see him in a suit kind of role.
No. And while I was at Yorkshire Television, I did some more exhibition design. The Museum of Film, Photography and Television was opening in Bradford, and I did period photographer studio interiors from the early Victorian ones through to a 30s studio. And I also did some interiors for the Welcome Gallery at the Science Museum of apothecaries and chemists and doctors and what they were surrounded with. So
was this the start of you starting to move towards doing your own artwork and your own art career?
Well, actually, I'd already exhibited 2 boat paintings at the Royal Society of Marine Artists exhibition, which was at the boat show in Earl's Court. And I used to do drawings to show directors, but they were all done on tracing paper because they would need to be printed out on a wet printer for distributing to the lighting directors and other people to get, so they have an idea of the set. And I also had made little scale 1 to 50 models of the sets, and I did put little figures in those as well.
So how long did you work self-employed before you started to really move into your art career?
Well, that was another 10 years.
Another 10 years?
And when Sky Television started up, when it was called B Sky B.
It was.
I did lots of sets for them for all sorts of programmes. I mean, Discussion was a Frank Boff programme before he was disgraced, and
Yes.
and others. And then I did work as an art director with other designers on other productions, one of which was a Stephen Polyarkov production called The Food of Love. And there's a very famous designer called Michael Pickwood who I worked with. And I did quite a lot of independent films with friends who were aspiring to be directors. And so I mean, on one, it was about some poems which were set in East Anglia, and I made a full-size sturgeon out of fiberglass for that, which is hanging in my studio even now.
You are a very good friend to have to any filmmaker, aren't you?
and going,
Budding filmmakers get in contact.
and going back, I'm in the On Eden line. They were having a meeting in one episode to try and sell a steamship without sails, which everybody was very sceptical about. And so I made that model too, which was about 3 foot long. And I set myself the deadline, and I had to stay up very, very late to finish it in time for the studio day.
Do you still have that?
Yes, I do. It's in my studio.
Wow.
But
so you've got a sturgeon and a boat with no
yes,
sails.
Yes. And the BBC has kept an archive of my work in the form of the sheets I've just been the coloured photographs on sheets that I've just been showing you. So I haven't got many of those now. And then in 2000, I stopped doing freelance work, and I went on a taster day to London Metropolitan University for digital imaging, because I'd never personally used a computer before, and I thought, well, this might be a way of doing it. And on the taster day, they showed how to do 3D animation, and I was very taken with that. So I decided I would do an MA, which was for digital imaging, but I specialised in 3D animation, and for my final project I made part 1 of a continuing story about a 1920s pilot, and it was set in New Mexico because the desert landscape is so dramatic there.
So that was really the start of you moving into your...
Yes, it was. But in fact, once I'd made that, I mean, it took, to do everything, which a team might normally do, it took me a year to make even that. Because I had to think up the story and then make the landscapes and make the plane fly and all the make the characters, and that takes a very long time.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And so you did that, and then you started doing more of your
Yes,
own.
I didn't. When I'd finished the MA, I realised that really everything to do with 3D animation was done in huge teams, which I didn't really fancy. I wanted to do things on my own. I had already started drawing the Hastings fishing boats, the wooden ones, which were all disappearing, being cut up or parked on roundabouts, as I said. And I'd done those, but I hadn't really thought specially about exhibiting at all. And then in 2009 I met Jenny West, who founded the Gallery North Gallery in Helsham, and she came round and looked at them, and then I had an exhibition of European working boat pictures, and that really set it off. And then the first Pure came along, and I had my paintings, my drawings of the Hastings fishing boats in Hastings, which was part of it.
I think it was those webs at
Yes,
Rock
it
and
was.
Ore, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I actually hung them.
Yes.
I actually went in there and hung them for you. I was like, this needs to be hung. It's somewhere that it has a narrative, and as a curator, you want it to be in the right place. So I went and I contacted the chap who owns Webs, and I said to him we had this work, and it'd be really cool if we could exhibit it in the restaurant. And he was like all for it. He was like, yeah. And then he was like, well, we've got another one, and we've got one in Rye. I was like, okay. But no, it was so appropriate. And so that's when I became aware of your work in 2010 when we first did that.
Yes, and in 2808 we went to India for a month because my daughter Laura was working there as an anthropologist, and we'd been in previous years from the late 90s onwards because she was doing her fieldwork there, and I persuaded her that we should make some films which she has used in her academic work. And I shot lots of footage of the Durga Puja festival, which happens in October every year, and I hadn't actually made the film, edited it together until last year, which I was preparing for an exhibition at the Dimbola Museum and Galleries on the Isle of Wight, which is a comparison between Julia Margaret Cameron, the famous Victorian photographer, and modern artists, one of whom is me, because the paintings. Well, a year after we'd been for the month, I suddenly realised felt compelled to paint pictures of the aspirational and poor people in Calcutta. And so I started on that series, and now there are over 20 paintings of that.
Have we got any of those here? Can
Yes,
you point some
there
of
is
those
one.
out? So we've got this one here, haven't we?
Yeah.
So people know what you're referring to.
So I decided to make them most of them are on a square format, and this is a man who's probably made all his trumpets next to some buses which all have marvellous graphics on them.
You can see your career reference points coming out, can't you?
Yes.
The choice of why you would pick
Yes.
that background.
Yes.
So that's one of the Indian
Yes.
pictures. And what about the big one up on the
Oh yes.
on the wall here?
Mm.
So if we turn the camera slightly, I think you don't need to take it down, Griselda. We can just turn that. There we are. Oh, she's going to take it down. She's done it. Just be careful not to fall over there to pull the wire. Oh, there we go. Look at that. So
This one actually hasn't been exhibited yet because the exhibition at Dimbola Museum and Galleries they just came as lockdown started, but we've got a new date for next year, and this forms the centrepiece of an installation which I've made for that exhibition called Festival, and it has all sorts of props that I brought back from India which complement the picture, and it's hung against a sari background, beautiful silk sari.
I love your installations. We'll give that back to Griselda. You did one of the prayer wheels, didn't you, for
Yes.
us as well, which was
Yes.
absolutely astonishing. That was for last year's 10th anniversary exhibition, wasn't it?
So it had 5 paintings of scenes from modern Mongolia on 5 wheels. So you could turn the wheels. So
Do you have a picture of that on your website?
I think it's one of the stills I gave you.
Ah, so we have a still of that.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can bring that up. So we've got a still.
That's in the studio.
Oh,
that was
there
one
it
of
is.
them.
There
Yes,
we are.
yes.
Okay, let's see if I can share that on the screen because I think people would like to see that. Let's see if I can. Application. Oh, there we go. Share. There we are. So we can see that on. That's the prayer wheel, isn't it?
Yes.
And that's outside your yurt in your garden.
Yes.
And who's that in the? That's not you in the picture. Oh yes, it
Yes,
is
it
you.
is,
It
yeah.
is you.
Yes.
See, I need to put my glasses on.
So below the paintings on the wheels, there's a Sanskrit prayer, and the yurt came from the Chinese part of Mongolia, and there are various firms that import them.
There's an amazing picture of you. Let's go to the
Yes.
picture of you in the.
Yeah.
Oh no, wrong way. Wrong way. That was Molly yesterday. No, let's find your. There you are. Look at
Yes.
that one.
So on my travels, I always bring back props like the kettle, and you can't quite see it, but all Mongolian men have a snuff bottle, which they offer round when you, as hospitality, when you first meet up with them.
Is that the little bottle on
Yes.
there? I can see it on the napkin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I brought back Mongolian costume, and I dress up in it, and Griselda takes a photograph of a particular pose I want.
I am disappointed you're not wearing that today, really. I am quite disappointed you haven't arrived here in that Mongolian outfit with that hat. I love the teapot as well.
Yes,
Absolutely
it's
amazing. We've got these pictures though, haven't we? We've got the paintings. We've
Yeah.
got one of the paintings,
Yes,
I think, haven't we?
Yeah.
We've got that one.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So hang on a sec. We'll just minimise this chat for a moment. So we're going to give you the screen back, and we'll minimise. There we are. There you are. So you can see the first painting there. So talk us through that one.
Well, we
I'll hold it for you, and then you
Yeah.
can talk about it.
on our trip last year, we stayed with some Kazakh herders who also kept eagles for hunting in the winter, and they hunt for Arctic foxes in the high mountains in the snow, and they use eagles to catch them, and hares, and they use the fox skins to make their hats. and so Griselda and I dressed up in the costumes.
Of course you did.
And rode the horses, and I could hold the eagle. And it's on a really thick sheepskin glove because the claws are incredibly sharp.
Did you take this photo?
Yes, I took
Yeah,
one.
you took the photo.
And then there's a prop that rests on the saddle, so you can ride.
With the eagle.
Yes.
That's astonishing. So you did this one, and when did
This
you
is
paint
what a lockdown.
This is a lockdown painting.
Yes.
And then we have another one, don't we? There's
Yeah.
another lockdown painting. We have another lockdown painting. We'll just have a quick look at some more of these amazing images that you've sent me. So this is a bigger one in your studio.
Yes.
There we go.
So this is preparing for a trip in the Altai Mountains, and the river comes from the glacier, and it's very white because it's full of minerals. And this is the ever-patient camel being loaded up to take people up to the far mountains in the distance.
So you've travelled a lot, haven't you, you two,
Yes.
in recent years?
Yes.
You've done that, and you've done Japan
Yes.
as well, haven't you? And so we've got some work from Japan as well. And I don't think we've got any of the Japanese.
Yes, we have.
Oh yes, we do. Up there on the wall over there.
No.
Sorry, Chris. Our able assistant will go and just take that piece down for us. There we are.
Yes, the two.
So it's the geishas,
Yes,
isn't
that's
it? Yeah.
two of the apprentice geishas that I mentioned before.
So do you have places on your wish list that you'd like to go?
Well, we wished we were in Mongolia this summer,
Yes.
but they weren't letting anybody in, and we couldn't have flown, and we couldn't have gone on our route from Russia because.
Yeah. So this is you in your studio. So this was you painting during lockdown.
Yes.
And let's see what else you've sent me. And then
That's
that's in your London studio, isn't it?
Yes, and that's a bigger Indian painting, and lots of the other Indian paintings behind. And I have a collection of boats from different parts of the world, all really sailing boats.
So talk us
Fishing
through your process, because you're sat there in front of that and you've got a paintbrush in your hand. Talk to us about how you approach the painting in the first place, and then how it travels.
Well, I sort of assemble it in my mind, and then I bring the different elements together until I've formed a composition I want. It's a bit like having cutouts. And then I trace an outline down on the canvas, and then everything else actually comes in the painting. So I do all the fine detail. It's like drawing, and when it starts, it's completely flat, and I've put in the base colours, but all the detail and shadowing comes from paint. So.
Do you use
I use acrylics.
Acrylics.
I've tried oils, but even water-based oils, but I just get too impatient with waiting for it to dry, because if you're doing someone's face, I want it to happen quickly in its basics, and then obviously I'd go back on it.
So that's how you approach it. A lot of people have been saying about putting down a colour underneath the ground,
Yes, well what I did, I put down an earth-coloured ground on the last two paintings, the two Mongolian ones, and painted over that, because traditionally, and portraits too, I would do that. I'd paint really quite a dark colour. And if someone's pale-skinned, I would put down a very dark ground and bring that pale person.
So like the geishas,
yes.
that would have a very, very
Yes.
dark ground behind it.
Yes,
That gives it that cinematic 3D quality, doesn't it?
I hope.
I think it does. I think you're confident that it does. So do you have a particular favourite acrylic paint or particular brushes that you use?
I use brownie ones, the heavy-bodied ones, because sometimes I almost want a painting that's three-dimensional, but I wouldn't use a palette knife to make it thick. And I use golden acrylics as well, but they're more fluid, but they are really useful.
Do you do drawing and keep a sketchbook and things like that?
I'm not very good at that.
Do you use your camera instead?
Yes.
Yeah, so your camera is your sketchbook.
Yes, I mean, most of the subjects I'm painting, I see them and they're just a moment that's snatched. They're not something you could ask the people to sit there and be drawn.
Yeah.
Of course I did life drawing at art school.
Yeah.
But
you do, the boats are drawings, so you do a lot of drawing.
Oh yes,
yeah,
yes.
But as in sketching as the preparatory stage for your paintings, you use a camera mainly.
Yes.
Yeah. And then, as you say, they're slightly fictional because you're creating them as an imaginary scene.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. What advice would you give other artists? Because you've been on quite a journey, haven't you? I mean, that's quite a journey.
Yes.
And there's a lot of people watching who will be in awe of that artistic journey that you've been on. What advice would you give them as they're approaching their...
Well, I think you need to find your own style. I mean, obviously, there are artists I would admire very much, but I suppose particularly Stanley Spencer's self-portraits and portraits of him and his wife and his landscapes, not the bigger murals, religious subjects. And for sheer edginess, Egon Schiele, his drawings.
Yeah. So you suggest people look at those, but really try and hone their own. You've got a very distinctive and unique style that is, as you say, it's very constructed and it's very colourful. It's very
colour matters a lot, especially in India, where everywhere you look there are colours.
Yeah, you can really feel it. You can almost feel the heat, can't you? As you look at the pictures.
And the pollution in Calcutta, because the sky's really, really grey and it's a mixture of grey and ochre.
You haven't shown us the sky, although in that one you have. In that one you have. Whereas, and isn't that strange, because you're thinking India, hot country, and yet the hot blue sky is in the picture that you've painted of Hastings.
Yes.
The hot blue sky is there. You've exhibited a lot as well. What advice would you give for people for that?
Well, just to try. I've exhibited 3 times at the Royal Society of British Artists Open, and once with the SGFA, which was the drawing of a Asturian clogmaker working with his big chisel, making clogs by hand.
That's not this guy here, is it?
No.
That's he's doing.
That's a portrait of Mohammed.
Let me just show people because they'll think, what are we talking about? So this guy here, there you are.
Yes, over the fireplace.
Over the fireplace.
Yes.
So that's Mohammed.
Yes, Mohammed, who works in one of the studios in the Star Brewery in Lewes.
Oh right, so he's a local guy.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I did start a series of craftspeople, but Japan and Mongolia have sort of series have really taken over.
Yeah. You had an exhibition locally in the Burley Centre, didn't you?
Yes, I had in 2017. I had an exhibition of 80 works, which included some of my television drawings as well, and it forms part of Eastbourne College, and that's where I went to school.
Yeah, which is just lovely, isn't it? It's like it really kind of rounds it off, doesn't it? When you've you studied there, and then you have that like big retrospective showing all of your work from TV through to like really very contemporary up to the almost the present day. Obviously, it was 2017.
Yeah.
What's your dream going forward then? Because that was in a moment. What's the next moment you're aspiring to?
Well, the next moment, I hope the exhibition at the Dimbola Museum and Galleries in the Isle of Wight is not lost again.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's due to be on in the spring next year.
Have you been? You've been out there recently, have you?
No, we're going.
You're going
On Saturday to sort through things, and I made the film of the Durga Puja festival. I made that for that.
And I'm hoping to come, obviously, and we were talking about the potential for live streaming that exhibition as well. So watch this space, because we'll hopefully live stream from that exhibition. So anyone who can't get out there will be able to see it, and you'll be showing a lot of what you see here.
Nearly all of my Indian paintings, and then another artist is Sunara Bergen, who makes films and does prints, and she's English of Bangladeshi origin, and she's very spiritual, and she does performances with her husband, who's Nigerian, who's a brilliant musician.
Oh, that'd be an amazing thing to live stream. We're definitely going to have a go at that. So we have some questions for you, as you can see. So, Annie, your friend Annie, which artists do you admire, Jeremy? Have any influenced your own work?
Well, there's a lot of artists. I've already mentioned Stanley Spencer, Egon Schiele, who between 1914 and 1940 do lots of. As Dame Laura Knight, I think she was an incredible artist. The way she did portraiture and scenes.
And portraiture is, very much coming through in your work very heavily now, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, I intend to do some single full-length portraits of some of the really interesting herders we met in Mongolia last year.
Do you hope to get back to Mongolia?
Yes, we'd love to. It was so free, because it was just us and our drivers and the tent, and the hospitality from, you can just turn up at someone's yurt and they'll invite you in, feed you and want to know about you. And in one we went to, there was this marvellous matriarch who, when she heard that we'd been camping in a tent for the last 16 days, she said, "Oh, are you refugees from London then?"
It's quite a change of perspective, isn't it?
Yes.
So, Fran says, do you refer to photos when you're painting? Excuse me. I was going to sneeze then. Do you refer to the photos when you're painting?
Yes, but then at certain stages I will put those away, and because I don't want to be totally realistic.
So as you said, you kind of use them and then you construct almost like a set design.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
For the painting. So they're one element of how it all comes together.
Yes.
And Vincent, would you say that your set design background comes into your approach for the narrative of your pictures? So yes, we just...
Oh yes. I mean, the preparing for set design, it involves as much research as an academic would be doing for writing a book almost. But what's so nice and different is you might do one production for, say, 8 weeks before it was finished, and then you'd start another, and it would be totally different. Yes. One could be totally modern, one could be totally a period show. And
no risk of getting bored.
No, not there was never.
No. And then I really, so this is Annie, I really like your black and white prison drawings. Have you got any of those to show the audience? I don't know any of those.
They're in the film on the website.
Oh, okay. Yes. So I don't...
They're close-ups of them.
Okay, so on the film. So you need to go to the website, Annie, and look
the
at
exhibitions page.
And the exhibitions page, and you'll see them on there.
Yes, at the end of the film, I've done close-ups of all those drawings.
Ah, brilliant. And so prison drawings, when did you do those?
Well, there was going to be a film set in Russia, and the hero ends up in a gulag for a while and escaped dramatically. So I did a series of drawings for that, although it never came to anything.
But you have them.
Yes.
Amazing reference documents.
And then the other drawings are for the On Eden Line and a comedy playhouse.
It's been fascinating, Jeremy. I've learnt so much about you, more than I knew, and I've known you a long time. And I think this is a thread that's going through all of these interviews. Is that I know many of the artists, but I've learnt such interesting detail, and I hope the audience have really been fascinated. You've been so generous in sharing all of that with us, and I know I can see by all the comments in the sidebar how much everyone's really appreciated it. Thank you, Griselda, for being our able assistant. I think you need to come round and say thank you and say hello to everyone, even though you weren't prepared. Come round and say hello. So
I'm here, but
yes.
I didn't obey the orders. I should have come in a subdued colour.
I'm very disappointed that Jeremy's not wearing the full Mongolian outfit. I'm disappointed with you.
He did think about it, but might have got that. But it is very important in his work to have. It's like a television designer really needs his props and spends a lot of time looking for them. And this painter needs his props. He wants to have things around.
Yeah.
And there is one painting you may remember. It's been in one of the Pure shows, of a man, which happens to be Jeremy, but masquerading as a Japanese man, painting a little beautiful little Japanese folk object. They're called toys, but they're actually folk little sculptures. It's very important.
So
to
that's
have the right
that's his self-portrait.
Yes, my hand,
Yeah.
and a kimono which I have.
Yes.
And you're a curator, Griselda, and you're curating the Dimbola exhibition.
I am. That came about. First of all, Jeremy met the man who runs Dimbola and created Dimbola in London at a private view. Shows the importance of private views.
Shows the importance of getting
Networking.
involved, networking.
They got on really well and discovered that Jeremy had done all these paintings of Kolkata. And Julia Margaret Cameron, famous Victorian photographer, spent much of her life in Kolkata, grew up there, was born there and married there, going backwards and forwards. So an exhibition of Jeremy's 21st century Kolkata scenes alongside this woman's. She did some photography in actually mainly Sri Lanka. It's very difficult in Victorian times to do photographs in India because of the climatic conditions. You couldn't get the chemicals to work right, and flies drop down in them and so on. So yes, we went there to talk about Jeremy having this exhibition, and the nice chief there said, well, wouldn't you like to curate it then? So I thought maybe for the first time it would be nice to work together, to do this together.
And it was such a shame that it didn't happen.
Unbelievable. Yes.
However, all of these things have a silver lining. So when you do it next year, it'll have extra detail and nuances that was unexpected.
Absolutely.
That we don't even know.
We don't
right
even
now.
know.
So exciting! You're going this weekend, and you'll start to find out a little bit more. Please be careful. I don't know what COVID is like on the Isle of Man.
Oh, it's very low.
There is none.
There is none.
To low.
They say there is none. But we're going to work with the hospital there, which is a very modern one that has a lot of people working there from Indian subcontinent, from South Asia. And we want to do special visits for them and involve them in it. So there's a lot to be planned.
There is a lot to be planned, and you've been given an extra year, so that's a gift, really, isn't it?
It is.
To be given to be given the extra time, because now we can do these extra things as well that we've now learned how to do.
Yes.
That we didn't know how to do, but we now do know how to do. So thank you both so much, and I'll just slip quietly back into the corner of the screen like I normally do, and we'll see you all. So that's the final interview. That's the 30 days, one a day. It's
amazing.
Been an epic adventure.
It's been an amazing watch.
Has it? Oh, I'm
And
glad.
Felicity Flotto.
I know.
That was really, really interesting.
What I love is I hope everybody's individual personalities have come out on the screen and really been appreciated, because you're also individual, like, you know, individual creatives. And when people come to an exhibition, and I'm sure Griselda will appreciate this, that you bring your work and we curate it and exhibit it, and then the people come in and we talk to them about you. And it's so lovely that people who want to buy your work can actually meet you and actually hear your story and your provenance. And I've really enjoyed being the person who's, you know, been nosy enough to ask all the questions. And I've learned so much as well, which has been an absolute joy. And I've really loved it. But I'm sorry, Charlie, I can't do another 30 days. I'm not the one show. I really do tip my hat at those people who do every day, year in, year out. No, for me, I do need a break now. We will be back, obviously, tomorrow, because we're going to do the closing show tomorrow. It's National Poetry Day, and it's the full moon. So we're going to do some poetry with Ed Boxall and Julia Desch, and we're going to do the full moon meditation, and we're going to have the lovely Tanya doing some singing. And then, which will be lovely, and really enjoy just celebrating what an achievement we've done here, and how amazing all the artists have been. And they've really pushed themselves out of their comfort zone. Jeremy, it's not a natural thing for you to want to sit and talk to a camera, is it? You know, for an hour.
And I remember I looked at the interview on the CD for the Doctor Who one, and I'm looking, so I'm pinned back against the wall.
Well, you've looked very chilled. You look very chilled, and I love your shirt, so you've looked very chilled today. And then we'll be back in late October with our regular weekly interviews with people and chatting to people, and we've got some really good, interesting people then. And then we'll launch the intake for ART360 Season 2 on the 1st of November, and that will be in April next year. Now, you all know, if you get your applications in first, you'll be at the top of in the front of the magazine. So you've learnt a lesson there. Get your entry in quickly, because you'll be a high number, because we will do it exactly the same. Whoever gets in first, and we're limiting it to 100 people, because I want everyone to get the best out of it. And I think if it's more than 100, it's too many, and no one will be able to flick through that many pages of a magazine and really digest it. So yeah, you heard it here first, 1st of November, put it in your diary. Chris and I have had the meeting today. We've bought the website. We have Pure Art 360 as a website now, so it's now officially a thing. And it's going to have its own website, so you'll be able to go there as well. So yeah, thank you all so much. We'll see you tomorrow at 5:30 when I'll have Ed and Nadine here.
Bye.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Griselda. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.